Today's video is all about nails. Yes, again, what can I say? It's just something that's near and dear to my heart. So if you are looking for long wearing nail color, then this could be the video for you. Stay tuned. What? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining today. If you're new here, I'm Mary, I'm 50 years old, and I love experimenting and playing with things that help me look as young as I feel. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Join the family. Just click that subscription button, and if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, and also hit that notification bell so that you know what new videos are uploaded, which happens every Friday. So, today is not a skin day. Today is a day for nails, and it's sort of that holy grail quest. And I think that a lot of people think that my holy grail would be perfect skin, but in reality, I know that's not going to happen. There's no such thing, and that's sort of a movable feast. However, I do believe that there is a perfect nail solution for everyone. There just has to be. So I've done this for years. I'm always experimenting with things, and particularly because we are still in lockdown here, April 2021, that I need stuff that I can do at home, and I'm always experimenting. Some things are more successful than others, and this is a new one that I'm trying today. So when I do things at home, there's really only two things I'm asking a kit to do, which I don't think is a lot, but whatever. The one thing is I want it to last. I want it to stay until I decide I'm ready to take it off. I don't want to take it off because it's chipped. I want to take it off because it's time to put a new color on. The second thing that I want is that it doesn't mess up my nails, because I'm always playing with stuff and doing stuff, and I don't want to cause any damage to my nails. So those are the only two things that I'm looking for. Now, there are some bonuses like easy to apply and easy to remove and quick, but they're not essential. So that's what I'm looking for. First is long-lasting color that doesn't come off until I want to take it off, and the second is that it doesn't damage my nails. Okay, so today is something that I'd actually never heard of, and it was one of the viewers, who had asked me about a particular brand, but it was a nail dip system. And I remember reading this going, what does that mean? I don't know what that is. So I looked it up online, the particular brand that this person had asked about, and I found out that they don't deliver over here to Europe, so I wasn't able to buy it. So I did a bit of research and came up with these guys, and they're called Kiara Sky. This is their nail dip system. It is a whopper. I bought this here in Ireland for 130 euros. Yeah, it is expensive, but you know what? If it works, then for me, that's fine. That's an investment and I can live with that. So this is what these guys say about this product. So this system promises to create lightweight and natural, long-lasting nails. So our easy-to-use dip pattern feels natural and doesn't damage the nail bed. It's formulated without harsh chemicals, and they contain complex bonds that will keep the nail from chipping, discoloring, and lifting. Well, that's the bonus, because I even found that shellac, after continuous usage, start to lift a little bit on the corners, so that's something I'm paying attention to. So this all-inclusive system comes with everything that you need to create beautiful, full-coverage overlays, I didn't know what they meant by that, in less time than traditional acrylic application. And again, I didn't really understand what that comparison was. But anyway, we'll get to that. Okay, so this is what it comes with. And by the way, you pretty much need to use all of these. And then you use a couple of these. And this is what you would need to do every time you use it. Okay, so what that comes with is a bond, a base, a seal protectant, a top coat, nourishing oil, and then there's like a brush saver, which actually is just something you use if the brush goes a bit gunky. And then these are three colors you can use. We have a clear and we have a natural. I am not gonna lie. This scared the crap out of me because when you take it out and you look at the instructions, there are 22 steps, and there are 8 products that you have to use. 22 steps. Yeah. Look, I'm committed to the cause, but I was just overwhelmed, and I went online and I watched a bunch of tutorials and I looked at their instructions and just went, and it kind of went into a drawer or a little basket. I have a basket of the things that I'm testing out and the stuff that I'm experimenting with, and it went into that basket. And it's actually sat there, I think, for 2 months. And it was sort of niggling in the back of my head, but I really don't know what to do with this. I was completely overwhelmed and freaked out. So one day my phone rang, and it was Charlie from Kiara Sky here in Ireland. And he said, look, I see that you bought the kit. Would you be interested in doing sort of an online tutorial session with one of our nail technicians to show you how to use it? I couldn't believe it. I nearly kissed the man through the phone. I was delighted. So I got set up a couple of weeks later, and I did this evening sort of Zoom thing. It took about 2 hours, which was a really, really long time. I mean, there was chit chat and other people and stuff in there too, but I sort of walked through the whole process with this woman. I'm not gonna lie, it didn't seem to be going well. As I was going through the process and doing everything that, you know, that they're telling me to do, I kept saying throughout this call, so everybody could hear it, I was just saying, I'm making a dog's dinner, this does not look great. And the lovely lady kept saying, just trust the process, just trust the process. And I'm thinking, nope, this is a bit of a mess, it doesn't look great. And then at the very end of it, I was like, this looks pretty damn good. So I was intrigued, I was very interested, because what happened was that was on me for 10 days and it didn't really budge. So took that stuff off and decided I was gonna have to do it, give this a trial for myself, and that's what I've done here for you guys today. So I'm gonna show you the demo of me going through this process and doing all of this stuff myself. The first thing I did was just laid everything out. You pretty much will be using all of these. You might not need the brush cleaner straight away. You can leave that to the side, and the oil stuff you just use at the end. But you will definitely be needing all 4 of these. I laid them out in front. And then I picked a color. These are your 3 colors, really. I went for the red, because that's just me. I don't know if the gold is going to be heavy hitting or an overlay or whatever. And then there's a neutral and a clear, and they suggest that you use that as a base if you're going to use any kind of strong color, because it might discolor your nail. Okay, so I just had everything sitting out in front. Okay, I started off with clean nails. I had cleaned them and I'd used some remover on them, and then they want you to do a buff, and just to lightly buff on the nails to make sure you get the oils off, because even if you have used soap to clean your hands, oftentimes there's some residual oil behind. So if you have any oil on your nails, it's not going to stick. So I just kind of lightly buffed them all so that they were squeaky clean. Okay, the first thing we're going to start with is our bond. Okay, so this you are going to put on all 5 nails, just one at a time. This is not something that you have to go too fast with. It's fine. Just put it on each one of the 5 nails. And for all of these, I would seal them on the end too, just to make sure you're covered. But the key to all of these products is thin layers. Go thin. Okay, so now we can put the bond away, and next we're using the base. Okay, so our base and our colors. So for me, I ended up putting on a clear just to protect the nail, as they had recommended, because I was going with the red. So I have my clear ready to go, and I have my base ready to go. So this, we're gonna just do 1 nail at a time because the base will dry. So you want to put on your coat of base, and then you want to immediately put it into the powder. So we just start with the thumb. The thing about this is, I discovered, the key is to go really thin with this, because you're starting to build up quite a few layers here. So go as thin as you possibly can, but get some good coverage, because this is what the powder is going to stick to. I do try to get the edges in there too, but be careful, because I actually overloaded it and it got too thick on the ends. So what you do is you put it in at about a 45-degree angle. I kind of shook it around a little bit to get the coverage, and then you tap it off. It's actually pretty easy to put on, to be frank. This is a pretty easy part of it. And then you just move to each of the other 4 fingers. So you put on your base, and then you dip, and base, and then you dip. Tapping off the finger each time to get the excess off of the actual finger itself. Okay, and you kind of let that sit for a couple of minutes to dry. It doesn't take very long. And then get a fluffy brush and just wipe off the excess stuff. And now we're gonna go in with the color of choice. So for me it was the red, so I used the natural. I wouldn't have used the natural anyway, otherwise. I do like my bright colors. So same process here. You're going to use your base, and then you are going to place it in the dipping powder, and then you are going to tap it off. And then you will do that for each of the 4 fingers. Okay, so you wait for your 3 minutes after your first pass of color, and this is where you can start to see where there are any gaps after you have wiped it off with the brush. For me, it was always on the edges that I might not have quite gotten the base where it needed to go, so I could see a little bit of white bits. So this is where you can start to correct some of that with your second coat, which is great. So I could see that just here I didn't have enough, so I put a little bit of extra base when we went in for the second coat in those areas to make sure that I tackled them. So this is a good time to do a little bit of corrective work. You can see, yeah, right there. Okay, so once you have your second coat of the base on, then you do your dip and color. Okay, off and then move on. Okay, so then we're going to do that for each of the 4 fingers. Okay, so once that's done, we wipe it off with our brush. Okay, so we're done with all the powders now, and we're done with the base. So we're wiping everything away once it's dried. Okay. Okay, now we're going in with the Seal and to Protect. Now, just to warn you, your nails are going to look pretty crappy right now. They look gritty and they look bumpy and they look gross. Just going to warn you now, don't freak out, because I kind of did. And I would have if I hadn't done that Zoom call. I would have gone, what have I done to my nails? So the first step is to put on the Seal and Protect, because that's just going to harden everything into place. All right? So don't stress out yet. Trust the system. Trust the process. And put this over all of the nails. And then what we have a chance to do is to actually look at them. Don't pay attention to the surface or like the actual kind of condition of them, but I found that I had put too much product in certain areas, so there were kind of bumps. And once this hardens, you actually go back in with a pretty hefty nail file and you just go at it. And at this stage, it's already dry and you can just start to finesse some of those things that weren't so great. So this is the point where you also just go and wash your hands to get all the stuff off your fingers and stuff, okay? So then we go in with a second coat of the Seal and Protect. By now, we should have washed hands, so everything's nice and clean, and we're going in with a final step of that, just again to lock that in, just to be on the safe side. Okay, put that on all of them. Now, once that's done, it's recommended at this stage to use some surgical spirit or alcohol. Put it on a lint-free square. I don't have those, I don't know what they are, so I just used a cotton round. It is just to get the residual stuff off, anything that could be lingering from any of these multitude of products that we've just used on our fingernails. Okay, so this is what we're looking like now, and I'm still going to warn you, it's still not looking great. And I got panicked at this stage. But now we go in with the top coat, and this is actually where all the magic happens. And I can't explain it. You put on this top coat, and it just makes everything shine. And all of the sins that you think you have just done to your nails actually sort of seem to disappear. So this is where everything starts to pay off. So you put the top coat on and then you let it just sit for a second, wait for that to dry in. It doesn't take that long. And then you are going to go in with a second coat. I waited about 3 minutes before I went on to the second coat. I did a little test there to make sure it was okay. Dry to the touch. Bob's your uncle, and then we put on our last coat. Okay, and then I left it for about 5 minutes just to make sure, for sure, that that puppy was dry. Okay, so that was the process of application, and that's just one hand. So I went and did the other hand off camera because nobody wants to sit through that, particularly Mr. Cameraman. So I went and did that myself. But before I dismissed him, I put on cuticle oil. Now I do this every day anyway, and I suggest everybody should, regardless of what kind of nails you got. A little cuticle oil will be your best friend. I have one next to the bed, I have one in here, so I'm using those constantly. So here's the finished product. They look amazing. Now, they are super thick. They have a lot of layers of stuff on them, but they look great. Okay, so we wanted to do a 5-day check-in to see how it was holding up, and that's what we're looking like at 5 days. Perfection. Not a chip, not a lift, not a nothing. This stuff still looks like glass, and everything is solid. My nails feel thicker, like they could take on the world. So this has been fantastic for a 5-day check-in. Amazing. Best thing I've ever used. Okay, so now we're doing a 10-day check-in and removal. It looks fantastic. It looks exactly the same. You're getting a little bit of growth. You can start to see it a little bit at the cuticle, but aside from that, there was no chips. There was no downside to this whatsoever. I could have easily worn this for another week or two. I'm convinced of it. I just didn't want to. I get bored. 10 days is about my max anyway. So this stuff was great. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the removal process. So ordinarily I do sort of a shellac thing at home where I, dampen a little cotton bud with a bit of acetone, 100% acetone. I cover it up with this puppy and I leave it there for 15 or 20 minutes to remove. And that's usually what I do. But I was looking for alternatives, spent lots of time, on YouTube doing some research, and there was a new method. So I figured, sure, why not give that a try? So for that, what you need a bowl with some pretty warm water, as hot as you can probably stand it because your hand has to go into it. You need a Ziploc bag, you need a paper towel, and you need some nail polish remover. It needs to be 100% acetone, otherwise this puppy's not going anywhere. So what you do, you also need some nail files to kind of get this stuff off in advance, and I like to add some cuticle oil to the mixture. So you need to start off by really filing down the nails. Now they say to take off the top layer, sort of start trying to get the top layer of color off. So I used a very coarse nail file to do that, and went at it across all the nails and spent a fair amount of time trying to get off as much as I possibly could with my little, some muscle grease. Is that the word?
Elbow.
With some good old elbow grease in there. So then you put the kitchen roll into the Ziploc bag and you pour enough acetone into it to kind of moisten it so the whole thing is wet, just the kitchen roll. And then you put that whole, that plastic bag into some relatively hot water. I went on the hotter side. And then you're supposed to just put your hand in there and just kind of rub it around like this. So you're kind of grabbing at it. And they say to do that for 10 or 15 minutes. So I did that, I think 10, 15 minutes, and you kind of do a check to see if the stuff's coming off. And it started to wear off well on, 1 or 2 fingers. But after 15 minutes or so, I took it out and had a look and just went, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, it didn't really budge on a couple of the fingers, and that my hand's been sitting in that stuff for a while. So I started to file it off, and that is the last thing I want to do to my nails. I don't mind filing off product. I do not want to start having to muck around with filing onto my nails, and I started working with that for a bit, and then my temper started to take over. Stop filming, and I kind of went like that and said, I'm done with this is crazy. And I tucked it aside and said, we're not going to be filming this today. And I said, half the problem is I was trying to do this at 10 o'clock at night, which is not the time to undertake something like this, because ultimately it has a ton of layers on it. When you think about, there was a base color, there were 2 colors, there were 2 top coats, and all this sort of cement stuff in between. It's designed to not go anywhere, and that certainly relates to the removal. So I went back to my standard wrap it in tin foil situation, but I actually had to do it twice. So I had to do it twice, and I had to file it off in the middle. So my brain just kind of went, oh my God, this is a nightmare. So what I've decided that when it comes to this kind of product, and using this again if I so choose, and I'll let you know in a minute, you need an e-file. Like, you would need something that's going to get a fair amount of that stuff off before you start trying to soak. So that was a big ass headache for me at the time when I was tired and cranky and ready for bed. Not the time to be doing it. That's my advice. Okay, so that is sort of where we got to with that. And what is the verdict? Will I be repurchasing this? So I was sort of thinking about the components and decided to kind of score them a little bit. So when you look at the application, on a scale from 1 to 5, what would I give it? I'd give it a 2. I'd give it a 2, and that it's not complicated, but it's messy and it has a lot of steps to it. And I did quite a number on my white table here, and it's just fidgety. It's not like you can just paint something on and putting it under a lamp, which I quite like. So it didn't score high on the application. No, it did not. And the removal was just pants. I found that to be a nightmare. So I just would need to find a way to sort that. I think an e-file would probably do it, because once I was able to get the most, the bulk of it off, and I soaked it, it would glide right off. Not a bother. So, when I was doing that at probably 11:30 by this time, it came off with no problem, and it didn't damage the nail. The nails were perfectly fine. So all that hard stuff is just sitting on top of it, and it didn't do any damage to my nails. So for that, I'm going to give it a huge thumbs up, because my nails were in perfect condition. So the wear, honestly, on a 1 to 5, I'd give it an 8. It's solid as a rock. It is a bullet. It is glass. These puppies aren't going anywhere. I think it's phenomenal on wear. It is exactly what I wanted. That stuff would have remained for weeks. So it's absolutely stellar for wear. Okay, so the final question is, will I repurchase? Oh yeah, I'm gonna go buy some more colors. So yes, it's a pain in the ass to put on. There's no doubt about it, and I'm sorry, it is a bigger one to remove. So I'm gonna be calling Kiara Sky, because they're so incredibly helpful, and just saying, what can I do to speed this up? And I suspect an e-file is one of those ways. So I will be getting onto Amazon or seeing if I can buy it here in Ireland very quickly, because I think that would solve the problem. But their color range is massive, and I think once you get the hang of it, because even the second round, it wasn't perfect, but each time I do it, I learn a little bit more about what's going to work best. I don't follow all of their instructions. Instead of doing 22, I probably did 18 steps, and I figured out how to short stop a few of them based on doing some other research online. But if you're looking for something you can do at home, that you really, all you care about is wear time and the longevity of it and the nail care, this is absolutely the answer. But you got to have time, and you have to be okay with that, because it's a high maintenance gig. But I guess going to shellac and going to the professionals, it's trying to figure out how to do that for yourself at home. It's that same sort of thing. So that was a long one. Sorry, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This is my love. I do enjoy the nail stuff as much as the other stuff too. So I hope you liked it. And if you enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up. And if there's other stuff that you've used or you're interested in, let me know. Put some comments down below because I am always on the quest. I do think this is a pretty fantastic product. And again, I'll be repurchasing, but I am always on the hunt for new ones. So please let me know what you guys are using now. So thanks again for joining, and I'll see you next week. Bye. If you are new here, I'm Mary. I forget what I say.
I'm 50 years.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.